These French toast cinnamon macarons definitely did not understand the assignment. Um, well, that was me really, I guess, because I'm the baker and I haven't made macarons in many, many moons. So I will list the recipe down below, but I'm sure it's a great recipe. It was just me that had trouble with it. So nothing to do with the recipe, but I will link that down below. Start off by sifting your powdered sugar and your almond flour into a bowl, and then you want to get make sure that your eggs are room temperature. Mine were not. So as you can see here, I had them in a cup of water. What I did is I put the eggs in the cup and put some hot water in there for like a minute or two, and that helped them to become room temperature faster. So I'm weighing out my egg whites, and like I said, you want to have them room temperature in order to whip them into like a meringue. Otherwise, it will not work. Trust me, I know. I've been impatient many times and tried doing it with cold eggs, and it does not work very well. So I put my eggs in another bowl and just start whipping. And you don't want to do this on a high speed because um, if you over mix your egg whites, that can also affect the macaron batter end results. So now I'm taking that almond flour and powdered sugar mixture and lightly folding that in. And another thing I should have done, two things I should have done actually with this is sift it again a second time and also folded it a little bit more because um, it says you need to fold a total of like 30 times, which I honestly didn't count. But I should have sifted again for sure because you want to make sure that your almond flour and powdered sugar has no lumps and clumps in it. And here is also where I screwed up. So I have a piping bag with no tip. I have no idea what happened to my tips right now. I had a full set of medium-sized tips and I couldn't tell you where they are because I haven't used my tips in so long that between moving things and all that stuff, I just don't know where they went. So I just tried to make do with what I had, and it did not work because, as you can see, they're a hot mess. Um, I'm taking a toothpick and getting any air bubbles out, and also you saw as I smacked the sheet pan on the table to also help get any air bubbles out. But I think that it did not work properly because my batter was a little too thick and I did not mix quite enough. So that was another issue. If you guys have any tips or tricks, if you are familiar with macarons, please leave some tips down below. Um, and I am going to definitely get the right tip to make these in the future. I was trying to make these for a Valentine's Day gift basket that I'm going to be selling, but I decided to throw these out the window, not literally. So a second ago, you saw me sprinkle the cinnamon on there, so that's what I was doing. So the next step is to make the buttercream. This recipe actually called for Swiss meringue buttercream, but I can't make that to sell where I live in California. So I decided just to make a regular buttercream with butter and powdered sugar, and then the rest of the cinnamon and things that go inside the batter. So you want to make sure that your butter is nice and creamy before you add the rest of your ingredients so that it will be a smooth batter. And again, you want to sift your powdered sugar in there so that you have no lumps and clumps within your buttercream. So some of the other recipes for macarons that I was going to use also called for buttercreams that I'm not allowed to sell. So what I decided to do here was to make a large batch of buttercream and then divide it into equal portions and put in the appropriate spices like the cinnamon and whatnot for whichever recipe I was doing. So like I said, I'm just making a big batch here for that. In between each addition of adding your powdered sugar, you should scrape down your bowl a little bit to make sure that the bottom is getting mixed in evenly with all of your powdered sugar and all of that good stuff. And once you're done, you can take it out and either use it right away, or you can refrigerate it and or even freeze it if you're not going to use it right away, and then pull it out when you need it and either thaw it or let it just come to room temperature until you're ready to use it. So now I am going to divide my buttercream frosting into my bowls, and here I am adding some coffee flavoring. And I don't believe the recipe called for that, but I wanted to add it because I just really like the coffee flavoring. And then here I'm adding some cinnamon and nutmeg. And this is another thing I did. And one thing that I recommend for you to do is I put in the nutmeg and cinnamon, and then I tasted it, but I didn't really taste it right away, so I added some more. And I would not recommend doing that. I would add your cinnamon and nutmeg or whatever spices or things you're using. Let it sit for a few minutes and then taste it, because when I added the second batch, especially of the nutmeg, which you're seeing right here, I went completely overboard. Um, and it was just the nutmeg kind of overtook even over the cinnamon flavoring. So add a little bit at a time, let it sit for a minute or two, and then taste it. Because as I said, when I tasted it the first time, I didn't really taste nutmeg or cinnamon, to be honest. And then I added more, and I was like, whoa, that's way too much. So, anyway, that's another thing to note, is just let it sit before you taste it the first time. Now, here you see me, I'm going to be a macarons. And while they did actually turn out okay looks wise, they are way too big, definitely, for what a typical macaroon size is. But I was like, whatever, these are just for pictures, anyways, that I was going to use to advertise the basket for sale. Um, so I wasn't really too worried about it. I will say though that after putting these all together and actually tasting one, they were pretty tasty in my opinion. They weren't worthy of selling, I would say though, because if you've ever had a macaron, you know that the outside texture is a little on the crunchy side, and then the inside is kind of soft and not mushy, but just really soft. So I was kind of disappointed with that, but here I am tasting one. And as I said, they tasted really good. The flavor was good, even though there was a little too much of the cinnamon and nutmeg, but they still were pretty good. And that's what they look like on the inside. You could see it was still a little crunchy looking. And I'm taking the rest of my buttercream and going to refrigerate it, because this was late at night when I was filming, and I was not about to make any more macarons until I got the proper tip for making it. And you will see, like I said, I did make another video of a different macaron, and honestly, that one came out even worse. So I don't know if I see any macaron sales in my future, but either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and got a good little laugh. As always, take whisks, and I'll see you in the next one.